So welcome everyone. We'll let you come in from the waiting room, give you a minute, but welcome to our information session tonight. Just to make sure you're in the right place, this is the SMU Cox information session for students who want to continue working while also earning your MBA. So we'll go over multiple programs and avenues in which you can do that. And it looks like most of you have already done this, but thank you for muting yourself as you come in. We did want to make a note that this session will be recorded and it may be shared with prospective students who are not in attendance tonight. So if you feel comfortable doing so, we'd love to see you turn on your video and make this more of an interactive experience that we'll be together for the next hour. So definitely do that if you're willing. But it looks like most of y'all have come in, so I guess we can kick it off. Jill, if you don't mind heading to the next slide. Great, thanks. I will introduce myself first. My name is Lauren Buffkin, and I am an assistant director here in the SMU Cox Graduate Admissions Office, and I work specifically with our working professional programs and specifically within a little bit more closely with our professional MBA program. And then of course we have Jill, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm really glad to see so many of you here tonight. Welcome. As Lauren said, my name is Jill Melton, and I'm Director of Admissions across all of our working professional programs. So that includes the 4 programs that we're going to be talking about tonight. So our professional MBA, Executive MBA, online MBA, and MBA Direct. So really looking forward to telling you more about our programs and answering any of your questions.
Thanks, Jill. So tonight, our agenda, of course, we'll be talking about those 4 programs that Jill just mentioned, letting you know a little bit about the intricacies of each and what SMU Cox has to offer for all of our graduate MBA students. We'll talk about career support. We know that's a very big piece of the MBA. We'll talk about a little bit about the admissions process and what's required in those steps. And then we want to definitely answer your questions. So you're welcome to put questions in the chat box throughout the evening. We'll pause within to answer, and then of course at the end of the session we'll have plenty of time to answer your questions as well. So what can an MBA do for me? I'm sure that's the first step, the first thing that you're considering as you begin this process of exploring MBA options and the opportunity for you in your professional career. And so these are some things that we often talk about with students that as part of the MBA that can really help you, in the now and that can last with you in the future. So of course, your leadership skills, you have the opportunity to develop and bolster them through coursework, through opportunities outside of the classroom. It's a very hands-on interactive experience here at SMU Cox. So you're of course learning content, but you're learning how to apply that content and how to lead teams and people in your roles. A big piece, of course, is increasing your earning potential. We know that you want to earn an MBA to grow your career, to make progress, and even to get a raise or find a new role where you have even greater success. And so we definitely have support for that, whether it's through the Career Center or just the mentorship that you receive from professors and other people as part of the SMU Cox Business School. Of course, earning an MBA for anyone is a big professional self-discovery experience. So you are being put in different scenarios, you're learning with different people that you probably don't interact with on a day-to-day basis, people from all over, from different industries and different functions. And so you have that professional self-discovery. You might find a new skill or a new area that you really love, or one that you thought you loved and you find you really don't love that much. And so you have that opportunity to really figure out where you can excel. And then of course the personal self-discovery is part of it as well. A lot of people, of course, aren't going to tell us they're coming to get an MBA for the lifelong friendships, but we always want to make sure that you remember that is a big piece of the MBA experience. So Our model at SMU Cox is very cohort based, very relationship based. You're working through hard classes and you're balancing a lot together. And so you have the opportunity in that kind of challenging environment to develop true lifelong friendships. Of course, you're going to build a network and meet business professionals from all over. And that is a big piece of your success, but those lifelong friendships are valuable as well. The increased global perspective, of course, we know that is a big piece, something people are looking for in the MBA experience. And so this is done at Cox through your specific classes and also through travel opportunities that we provide. And then finally, the personal fulfillment. So you, of course, will be taking many classes, some which might be more challenging than others. You're going to have that fulfillment of success. You're going to be balancing a lot, whether it's classwork, your job, your personal life. And once you do earn your MBA, you'll have that fulfillment and that confidence from completing the program. And you can carry that with you for the rest of your career. So definitely a big boost for you. So we've kind of talked about why an MBA, and now we'd like to present to you the how, the avenue that you can get there. So we do have a couple of different programs for students who want to continue working while also earning their MBA, and they're on this slide presented right here. So we have our professional MBA, which meets on campus. Those classes are outside of the regular working hours, and our students usually have about a 2 years minimum of work experience. So we start that program twice a year. Our online MBA, the name says, of course, those students are taking class online. It's similar in the work experience timeframe, but we start 3 classes a year, January, May, and August. Our MBA Direct program is our newest program. The work experience requirement is a bit less, so you'll see students in there that have less experience. The program is a bit longer, so once you do graduate with your MBA, you have more years and that foundation of work experience under your belt. And then last but not least, we have our Executive MBA. So this is an on-campus program. The format of the schedule is a little bit different, meeting alternating weekends, and this is for professionals who have more years of experience under their belt. The average work experience is about 15 years. So we talked about why an MBA and how an MBA. And on the next slide, if you don't mind going, Jill, we'll talk about why specifically an SMU Cox MBA. So recently, the SMU Business School launched a campaign to reevaluate our curriculum. In 2020, we launched our next gen curriculum. This curriculum stands on 3 pillars, and really the leadership team went out and talked to corporate sponsors, successful businessmen and women, and asked, what skills and competencies do MBA students need to have in order to succeed, right after graduation, and of course also years down the road. And so our first pillar that we stand on is leadership. Of course, this has always been something that's a big piece of the Cox curriculum. There are opportunities within the classroom and outside of the classroom to work on your leadership skills. So like I mentioned earlier, we are a cohort-based program, meaning you will get to know your students, the other students, you will be in study groups, and you'll have opportunity, hands-on experience to work with each other and work on your leadership, practice your leadership skills firsthand that way. You also have opportunity to learn from C-level executives. So there are often times C-level executives coming to speak, whether it's in a seminar or a classroom environment, at a club meeting. There is a multitude of opportunity for you to meet successful businessmen and women and hear their leadership skills. Now, the Business Leadership Center is something that we're very proud of here at SMU. Of course, leadership is part of the name. So the purpose of the Business Leadership Center is to help you work on your executive communication skills and your leadership skills. So we offer multiple seminars a year, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later in the presentation, but this leadership skills are part of your classwork and your coursework. You do have a class, and then the opportunity to really expand your leadership skills is available in clubs in so many different ways. Now, our next pillar that we stand on is analytics. And I'm sure that this comes to no surprise. Analytics is such a big piece. It's applicable to many industries and functions, and it's a necessary skill for students to have to be able to analyze data and work in analytics. And so through these conversations and development, we understood that the need for students to work with data and manipulate data, of course, is necessary, but MBA students, especially to set themselves apart, need to have that analytical mindset where they can tell stories with the data. So not only do you need to be able to find a problem and analyze that within the data, but you need to be able to find a solution and communicate that with others. And so this analytics piece is a big part of our curriculum. And then last, we stand on experiential learning as our last pillar. And so this is where we really deliver, all of the curriculum. So you're learning theory, you're learning research in your classroom, but you're able to put all of that into practice through experiential learning so that you have that firsthand experiential knowledge. So especially for you, if you are earning your MBA while also working, that experiential learning is even applied day in and day out. You're coming from work to the classroom, or you're going from the classroom to work. And so you're able to apply things as you're going through the program in your real life situations. Also in your classes, you'll be doing case studies. You have opportunities to go on international consulting trips or take a capstone or practicum course. And we really see that putting you in these complex, we call them ambiguous environment, where it challenges you to learn your success and your ability to comprehend and really attach yourself to these theories and things that you might read in your textbook. You find a greater success that way. So we'll talk a little bit more about experiential learning and how we really see that lived out here at SMU Cox. So I know I referenced earlier the Business Leadership Center, and this is a center here at Cox that offers 90 plus seminars a year. These seminars are on average about 3 hours, and we bring in executives from all over to teach these seminars. So you have the opportunity to, again, work on your leadership skills, work on soft skills, and your executive communication skills through these seminars that are no additional charge and not part of your curriculum, but just another way to really better yourself as you're working on your MBA. And through the Disney Leadership Center, the Business Leadership Center, we also offer the Disney Leadership Institute. And so each year we send a group of students to the Disney Institute, and they have the opportunity to learn about Disney's customer service experience and how to emulate that and provide that in their current work environment. We also have a number of student-led organizations. So there are social ones. You might find a golf club or a wine club, which those, of course, are necessary skills in the business world. We also have industry-focused clubs. So we have, for example, an energy club, a real estate club, and those clubs are providing opportunities for networking, opportunities, of course, to network within your PIMBA cohort or your IMBA cohort, for example, or whatever, opportunities to network with other students that are part of the grad school, and then networking opportunities. They're bringing in speakers and alumni. It's really a great opportunity for you to further yourself in your current field. We also have affinity clubs, for example, the Women in Business or Veterans in Business clubs, and opportunities to meet people that are not just part of your cohort, but meet people part of the broader Cox Graduate School. So next up, we talk about networking. It's very important, of course, for any business professional. We do have a formal mentorship opportunity, which we see as part of our networking opportunities we provide here at SMU Cox. And so we call that the Associate Board Mentorship Program. You're able to go through a process and be assigned a formal mentor, which we have a number of businessmen and women, some are alum and some are not, who have volunteered their time to invest in future business leaders, future MBAs. And so you have the opportunity to meet with them. We have 42,000 alum across the world. And so the networking opportunities are endless. And again, these opportunities can happen within the classroom, within the clubs, in business leadership center meetings. The list really goes on and on. You have so many opportunities to build that network, which is of course very valuable for any business professional. We also have 15 centers and institutes on campus. So for example, we have our Folsom Real Estate Institute, our McGuire Energy Institute, and these institutes work with our clubs. They work with professors in the classroom. They provide opportunities for students to come alongside while they're doing research and consulting work in those specific fields. And last but not least, on this slide, we'd like to mention the business plan competition. So we have the Caruth Institute for Entrepreneurship. And so we have a competition that you are able to participate in as an MBA student. If entrepreneurship is something that you enjoy or something that you want to challenge yourself to try, this is an opportunity for you. And for this, specifically the Executive MBA students, there will be a class and a business plan competition that you get to participate in as part of your curriculum.
Can I ask what the challenge is? What is the opportunity there? You know, competing against other students, obviously, but how do we compete in that competition?
In the business plan competition?
Yes.
Yes. Jill, do you mind answering that one a little more specifically?
No, not at all. So the business plan competition is run through our entrepreneurship club as well as our Caruth Center for Entrepreneurship. So it's open to all MBA students, and it's typically, I want to say it's held in the spring, typically in early spring. So we're kind of coming up on it right now. And so students who have ideas for a new business or a new product that they want to launch come together. So you don't have to have the idea necessarily, but you got to find somebody with the idea. And typically students are in teams of about 4 to 5 students, and they're creating a complete business plan and pitching it to investors. So like you would kind of think of like Shark Tank, for example. So you're pitching it to investors. The audience is, of course, faculty, staff, other students, but also real investors. So we have different individuals who represent incubators, other individuals who have started startups and are looking for deeper investment. And typically the grand prize or the winner typically gets between like $40,000 to $50,000 in cash and prizes. And then it tiers from there. So it's a great learning experience in terms of how to build a business case and pitch and go through that really difficult task of pitching your idea in a very short time frame and getting that buy-in. So it's really exciting for students, and a lot of our students do continue to pursue those ideas and start businesses from that. And so the Executive MBA business plan competition, like Lauren said, that's part of your curriculum, is part of your entrepreneurship class. So it's very similar.
What a great opportunity. Thank you for the information.
You're welcome.
Before we continue, does anyone else want to chime in with a question? No pressure, but I know we've gone through kind of a chunk of content, so we're happy to answer any if you have any. Okay, well, if not, I'll move on, and y'all, make sure you speak up if you do have questions. So, of course, part of the experiential learning that we've referenced before are these global opportunities. So all of our programs, you have the opportunity to travel and experience other cultures, experience the business environment elsewhere. It is required as a piece of your curriculum for all programs except for the professional MBA, but it's highly encouraged if you're able for professional MBA students to participate in these trips. So we have a couple of different kinds of trips that we offer through SMU Cox. First off, we have the consulting trip. So you're actually going with a group of other MBA students and working on a real life project with a company somewhere else in delivering a deliverable in a few days, a solution on the problem that they have, providing that consulting experience. So for example, the AMBA students, which AMBA we call Online MBA AMBA. Stop us if we use any any references like that you don't understand, someone raise their hand and let us know. But the online MBA students recently went to London and they had this experience. This is part of their curriculum. We also provide industry trips, and so anyone's able to go on those. And of course, they're a little more specifically industry focused. For example, the business school took a trip in recent times focused on real estate to Tokyo. And so you have the opportunity to go on these trips. Of course, right now, we do assume that you understand these are affected by COVID. We're still trying to provide the international experience. Some of our students are still doing consulting projects for international companies, just doing them from the United States. So you still have a similar experience, of course, but not quite the full experience that we hope to bring back in the near future. So next, I'd like to introduce the Professional MBA program. Unless someone has a question about anything we've just done, I know I offered that up earlier, but before we kind of move on into program-specific information, I'll give you a second.
I have a question about the travel. So
Sure.
with those locations, does each location pertain to a certain industry, or is it just up to you to find a certain opportunity there? How does that work?
So our global programs office sets these trips each year based on kind of the current business environment. And so it's not the same trips that are offered each year, but you have the opportunity that, they're trying to keep up with what's going on, and they provide those trips, the industry trips, on where is kind of the hot area of a certain industry at the time. So Right now, of course, things have been very different. We don't know what the future trips are yet. The plans haven't been announced, but we hope that, by the end of 2021 and definitely 2022, which seems so far off as we just started 2021, these trips will be back in business. Does that answer your question?
That's great. Thanks, Lauren.
No problem. Well, great. I'll move on to the Professional MBA, but please, chime in with questions if you have them. We appreciate the questions. So the Professional MBA is our MBA program that meets on campus while you're continuing to work. So we offer classes during the week outside of business hours. Most of these classes are on the weeknights with some on Saturday. The program is about 2 years, so it's a 24-month program, but there is some flexibility to slow down, and some students do take advantage of this if you have any kind of work or personal situation where you need to slow down, or even for a financial reason. You have the opportunity to take 11 electives as part of your curriculum with the Professional MBA. Like we just mentioned, you have that optional international consulting trip. And of course, you have full access to all the resources, which we've already discussed, and then more that we'll continue to discuss throughout the presentation. So I'll briefly talk about the format of the Professional MBA. Really, since it is a 24-month program, we kind of divide it into 2 years. We have year 1 and year 2. So year 1 is when you're building your business foundations. You can see listed here, those are the classes that you'll be taking throughout year 1. Like we also mentioned earlier, it's a very cohort-based program. So you'll be working with your cohort, having study groups. You'll be going through classes together and building team skills and your leadership skills as you work through these business foundations, and you build, a really broad business base to provide success in the future. So you do get to choose your schedule. These classes you either take on Tuesday or Thursday evening, or if you start in our fall class, you can take them on Thursday evening and Saturday morning. So right now we are working on our fall class that will begin in August, and our spring class that begins in January just had orientation last weekend. And then in year 2 of the Professional MBA, this is really when you get to customize your experience and become what we call an expert in your field. So you've already built those business foundations in year 1. Year 2, you can see most of your classes here are electives. And so you'll be working through electives to attain a concentration if you want to. And I always like to tell people, you don't have to be nailed down to a concentration on day one. You have time to speak to trusted advisors and start working with the Career Center, kind of get your feet wet as a student again, and then you can choose what concentration you'd like to work toward in order to find the best success for you. And these classes logistically are offered on the weeknights. There are very few offered on Saturdays, but some offered on Saturdays as well. And Jill, I think I'll hand it over to you for the online MBA and MBA Direct. And thank y'all. Continue. I'll monitor the chat box for a little bit while you're speaking, Jill.
Okay. So we have kind of combined for the online MBA and MBA Direct, because they are two very distinct programs, but they have a lot of similarities. So as I'm going through the slides, I'll kind of acknowledge what the differences are between those. Of course, one thing that's really important to remind you of is if you are thinking about one of our online program options, the MBA Direct program is for individuals with less than 3 years of work experience, early stage career professionals, whereas the online MBA are for individuals with 3 years or more. So I'll talk a little bit about the online MBA first. And one of the things that we always really want to stress, especially in an online environment, is how important class size and community and that connectedness is for any of our online programs. So we have deliberately small class sizes. Actually, just next week, we're starting about 80 students in the online MBA program for that cohort, but they will be in small classes of 15 to 20 students each. The classes, the live class sessions, there's 2 that you'll take weekly that are 90 minutes long with a mix of self-paced content. So recorded lectures, group work outside of class, for example, and participating to different discussion boards and posts. But those live class sessions, we want to make sure, because they're held in Zoom, so we want to make sure that students, their voices are heard. We actually joke that everybody's in the front row in the online MBA program or the MBA Direct program, because we want people to really get to know each other really well and have the online learning platform be an asset and not necessarily a barrier. All of our courses, or the majority of our courses, are held weeknights after 6 p.m. Central Time. Although just beginning this semester, we are starting to add some morning options. So 8 a.m. Weekday mornings. So depending on where you live in the US, that might be later or earlier, but we want to add in that flexibility. As I mentioned in the chat and Lauren mentioned, part of the requirements for the online MBA program is that you do 2 immersions throughout your time. You can choose to do those at any point in time during the program, and you have choices between international and domestic. In this past year, since we haven't been able to travel, we've been holding them virtually. We're doing a wargaming one in March, and we did an innovation challenge last August. And then the other thing that's really important to note, everything that we're talking about tonight in terms of the experiential learning, the career management center, all of that is open access to all of our MBA students, including these programs. And that's one of the things that we're most proud of, especially with the online MBA program, is that our online MBA students have complete access to everything that's going on campus or virtual that our other students do. And I just saw a note, can you elaborate on what an immersion is? Absolutely. So an immersion in the context of online MBA and MBA Direct, that's what we call our experiential learning trips. So they're 4-day-long trips. They happen in between modules or semesters. So you have, you're not taking your other classes. You're able to go on the immersion and really focus. They're done in person, typically excluding this year, but they're done in person, and it's a mix of cohorts. So you get to meet people that you might have had in class, but you'll also get to meet people that are ahead of you in the curriculum or maybe behind you in the curriculum. And while you're in the country or the city, you're learning about that region of the world, what's really important to it, but you're also working closely on a consulting project over the course of 3 days. So it's very intense. You're working with a real company or nonprofit on a real challenge and then presenting out your recommendations at the end. And we do have a little bit of a kind of a case competition at the end of the immersion. So there's always winning that prestigious award. I wanted to share with you all just a snapshot of what the curriculum looks like for the online MBA. So it is a 7-semester long program. The online MBA, unlike the professional MBA, doesn't have modules. It is a semester long program. You can see in the first semester, you're starting with managing and leading people and data analytics. So we hit 2 of our pillars real hard from the get-go with the online MBA. And then as you can see, as you get through the curriculum, like for example, semester 6 is a great example. You're not taking 4 classes the entire semester. You're taking 2 for the first 7 weeks and then 2 for the second 7 weeks. And then at the end of the curriculum, you are taking in your final semester our entrepreneurship and consulting project. It's a capstone course where you are spending the entire time either working on a business idea, a new business venture that you have, or you are partnering and consulting on a much more robust and deeper type project than what you would have done in your 4-day long immersion. So shifting a little bit to the MBA Direct program, I don't want to repeat myself, but I think what you'll hear is a lot of the same features because the programs are very similar with some really important distinctions. So I'll hone in on those. But as I've mentioned, the MBA Direct program is very unique. There's no program like it. And we designed it last year to really help early career professionals. So individuals between 0 and 3 years of work experience who are doing great things in their job and they want to continue to invest in themselves and earn their MBA while they're building their work experience. So again, same things around small class size, weeknight classes. There is one international immersion consulting trip that happens. And of course, our MBA Direct students have full access to everything that's been mentioned. What's different about the MBA Direct are a couple of things. One, just looking at the curriculum, it is a longer curriculum, but it's not necessarily that you're taking more credit hours. We've deliberately slowed down the pace of the MBA Direct because we know that students that are just starting out in their career need to have a lot more flexibility to be able to focus on their job. You might, as you're more junior in an organization, you might not have as much flexibility with your schedule, for example. So we don't want to overload our students. But then also we want to make sure that our MBA Direct students are graduating with between 3 and 6 years of work experience, which is really the sweet spot for what our corporate recruiters are looking for in terms of MBA level jobs. So we deliberately slowed down the pace so that our students can really focus on the curriculum, focus on building their career and in their work that they're doing professionally, and then also make sure to build those skills so that they're ready to land that MBA level job once they graduate. Another thing that's distinct about the MBA Direct program is that you do have the option to take several different electives. Those can be done on campus or online. You have both of those options. And I should mention in here, we are working on more elective options for our online MBA program, which would also be available on campus. And so we're working to announce that shortly, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So more information on that. But what I can tell you right now is that the MBA Direct program does offer that. And so you do have the ability to do a concentration and really focus your studies. See, I can anticipate the questions even before they come up in the chat. But let me pause here for a minute because I know it's a lot. So did I miss any questions or are there any other questions about our online programs?
Yeah, so I know that you spoke about electives a little bit and you can't really get into too much detail about some of the new things you're offering, but could you give me a taste of what you offer right now?
Sure. For example, for like in the online MBA program, you mean?
For MBA Direct.
MBA Direct?
Yes.
Sure. So some of the electives, so to put it in a nutshell, we have 170 electives that are offered throughout the business school. We are working right now to bring a lot of those online. Obviously, it's growing, right? We won't have 170 ready all at the get-go, but we're working on bringing electives on in terms of strategy, things like mergers and mergers and acquisitions and negotiations are also offered online. So those would be electives that you could take. More advanced strategy courses, entrepreneurship courses, a course like financial statement analysis, for example. So we want to make sure that it is robust so that students have a wide variety of different disciplines to pick from.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
I just saw a question pop up about a requirement. Are you required to be a working professional to be in the programs? And so my answer would be yes. It is a requirement that you are a working professional, that you are working full time. In terms of what that means, because obviously people have many different types of jobs, and some people are entrepreneurs, so it can mean a lot of different things. But what we're looking for are students that are working really hard during the day and are experiencing a lot of rich and complex problems that they can bring to the classroom, and then take what they're learning in the classroom and apply it the very next day in their work. So I would say we have a broad definition. I would also say right now, obviously, we're in a really unique situation with COVID and the economy. And so if you find yourself to have recently been laid off or furloughed, please don't let that deter you from applying for the program or connecting with us or pursuing it, because we know that obviously right now it can be a difficult time, and there's certain things outside of your control. So I would say, yes, it is a requirement, but don't let that deter you. Have a conversation with me and Lauren offline about it. All right, I'm going to jump into the Executive MBA just in the interest of time. So the Executive MBA, as we mentioned, and of course, as the name suggests, is really more for experienced candidates or senior leaders, senior business leaders. It is, like our other programs, a cohort program. It is lockstep, meaning that students are taking the same curriculum as they go through it together, although there are options to take a few electives. It is a general MBA focus with executive coursework. And it's also, the schedule is a bit different in that it's alternating Friday and Saturdays. So every other weekend, you will be in class all day Friday and all day Saturday. It is conference style. So think of when you go to a professional conference, you show up and they have everything ready for you. That includes meals. There's a lot of personalized student servicing, especially for our executive students. We know that you have a lot on your plate. And so we want to make the transition to campus as easy as possible. I do have the curriculum up here just to give you a little bit of a snapshot. As I mentioned, you're working the first 4 semesters through our general business curriculum and getting a really wide variety and building those business basics that you'll need in order to continue to grow your career. And then in term 5, which is your final semester, you do have the ability to take several electives. And those can be taken with your executive MBAs cohorts, but you also have access to all of those other 170 electives that we do offer through the business school. As I have listed here on the slide too, some of what those most popular electives are for our executive MBA students. And then we talked a little bit about the international trip. Now for the executive MBA students, it's a little bit different from some of the other programs. You're actually taking a course leading up to the trip where you're starting to work with your corporate partner and your client and starting to work on that consulting project. And then the trip is 9 to 10 days. Last year it was in Sao Paulo, and students were working with companies like Microsoft, Uber, and various nonprofits in Sao Paulo. And then students are presenting out those recommendations at the end of the trip. I'm going to go ahead and keep continuing. Again, I want to be mindful of the time, so I don't want to ignore questions, but I want to keep going to make sure we can get through all of the content. So as Lauren had presented earlier, obviously one of the biggest reasons why people get their MBA is to further their careers, grow their careers upwards and outwards into new directions. And so a huge focus of our MBA programs is that career development. And we work with our career management center. And so one of the things that I love to do, this is kind of like a brag slide. We love to have all of the corporate logos of some of our top recruiting companies that come to campus and work with our students, some of the most popular companies that students are going to. But really what the Career Management Center does is it works with students, regardless of where you are in your career or where you are within the program, whether you're just starting out or whether you're closer to graduation. The coaching team works with you to grow your career through a couple different ways. One is helping you identify different career paths. So they can be a huge ally and advocate for you and help you really uncover different career paths. They also help you discover your strengths. A lot of those you already know, but they're experts at this and they know what companies are looking for. And so they can help dig deeper to find some of those unique assets that you have. They also facilitate those connections because our Career Management Center, those are the individuals that are talking with hiring managers at major corporations, smaller companies, startups. They really have a finger on the pulse of what's going on and what companies are looking for and need. So they really help facilitate those connections. Then they help you showcase your skills, whether that's through your elevator pitch, your resume, your interview. They help you shine as bright as you can, right? It's kind of like, I don't know what I'm trying to think of an analogy, but they like sparkle you up. They make sure that you're ready to go, that you're completely polished. And so you're ready to hit the ground running. I want to dig a little bit deeper into what I mean by that so that you can kind of better understand the plan. And the way that we present our Career Management Center offerings is really for professional MBA, online MBA, and MBA Direct. They're very similar. And then our Executive MBA, I'll talk about a little bit more. It's more of an executive coaching model. So I'll start with PIMBA, AMBA, and MBA Direct. And we break it into your first year and second or third year. So in your first year, when you're working with the Career Management Center, it's a lot of that exploration. You're doing your career leader assessment, you're doing a lot of networking, you're working with your mentor, you're attending company presentations and information sessions. And so you're really gathering a lot of information and doing a lot of self-reflection around what you're interested in. You're working with your faculty members, for example, and some of the courses that you're really enjoying to dig deeper to see what opportunities are. Now, as a part of your curriculum, the Managing Your Career course is required for professional MBAs and MBA Directs, and it's optional for online MBAs. And this is typically taken in your first year, although it can be taken, you can choose when to take it, but typically in your first year, towards the end of your first year. And what we do here is once you've done a lot of this research and you've started to lay some of the foundation for your job search, you're going to be taught by your career coaches how to go about your job search. So things like search strategy, this is where you're really going to be working on your resume, your cover letter, honing your interview skills and your elevator pitch so that, again, once you see a job opening come up, you're going to be able to run for it really quickly and go after it. And that's what the second year or the third year really for the MBA Direct program is all about, is focusing on landing that job. And so you've built all of those skills in your first year, and it's really about executing in the second year. And our career coaches are there with you throughout it all. So it's unlimited coaching throughout both years. And as you get closer to landing that job, of course, it's going to be much more specific to that industry, to the job you're applying for. And then it ends with one of our favorite things, salary negotiations. So don't forget about the Career Management Center. They will help you through it all. And they will also always be there for you for the rest of your career, even as an alum. Now to shift gears a little bit with the Executive MBA, given where our students in the Executive MBA program are in their careers, we opt more for an executive coaching model. A lot of companies that come to campus that are looking to recruit MBA candidates, our executive MBAs typically are too experienced for those. So what our Career Management Center works on is coaching and helping facilitate those connections more through networking. So it's a one-on-one coaching model. You still have access to resume review and cover letters, and in our executive MBA students have access to all of the different on-campus events, but typically it's a little bit more of an executive coach type. And also as an executive MBA student, you have lifelong access to our executive education courses and seminars for free. All right, before I jump into admissions and financing, I want to pause again. Are there any other questions that I missed in the chat, or any questions that anybody has for me now? Okay. And Rao, I see your question, and we'll answer that as we go through the admissions criteria. I'll make sure to address that. So one of the questions, obviously, that a lot of candidates have are, how do people finance their MBA? Help me understand the different options. And so there's 3 different things that we like to highlight. One, at SMU Cox, we do offer merit-based scholarship. We are able to review all candidates for merit-based scholarship, I should say. Typically, about 50 to 75% of our students in any given year do receive some form of merit-based scholarship. The best part is there's nothing additional you need to do. So we automatically review candidates through the admissions process. And awards can range up to $15,000 total for our top Dean Scholar awards. All of our part-time students are also encouraged to apply for financial aid, for federal or state subsidized financial aid. Even though you are a part-time student, you still are eligible. You're taking enough credit hours. And so the majority of our students are taking out some form of loan to help them cover the cost of the degree as well. The last but not least, we always like to point out that at least about 60% of our students do get some form of employer support or sponsorship. So if you haven't looked already, check out your company's website, HR website. If there's people at your company that have done a part-time degree while working there, you might want to ask them some questions. You might want to speak with your manager. If you work at a smaller company and there's no formal policy, don't fret, don't freak out. Sometimes it's even better if there isn't a policy. Sometimes you're able to negotiate more. And so Lauren and I, we have tons of data on what students have done, what we've seen in the market for different industries. So if you do have any questions, we're here to help you navigate those conversations. We're more than happy to help you have those. Now onto the application process. So again, professional MBA, online MBA, and MBA Direct are all identical processes. Executive MBA has some nuances, so that's why I have it listed out. But all 4 of the programs do require the online application, your academic transcripts. Unofficial are fine during the application process. We will need official transcripts though before you become a matriculated student. And then of course your resume. There are several written components. So it's 3 essays for PIMBA, AMBA, and MBA Direct, 250 words each. So we do want you to be concise. Think of it as your first business writing assignment at SMU. So we're really looking to get to know you and understand your motivations better. And then the Executive MBA has 2 essays plus an action plan. And the action plan is a more detailed and specific plan that you have around while you're an Executive MBA, how you're going to reach your career goals. And we do have some examples for you on our website. So if you wanted to check those out, that would be a good next step. In terms of references and recommendations, professional MBA, online MBA, and MBA Direct require 2 references. So just the names and contact information for people that we can contact that will serve as a reference, a professional reference. The Executive MBA does require 1 written recommendation, and it should be either from your supervisor or a senior manager or colleague who holds their MBA. One of the best parts about applying for a 2021 term is that we are test optional this year. So due to COVID, due to a lot of the testing location constraints, we are test optional across all of our graduate programs. So if you do have a test, feel free to put that into your application, but it is not required. And one of the things that I love about how our admissions team works is that we can be really, really transparent with you, right? If we do feel that a test score would really bolster your application, or if we recommend proceeding without a test score. So we can always have those conversations one-on-one. And the Executive MBA does not and will not require a test. And then once you've submitted all of those materials, you'll be invited, I was about to say to campus, but we're still doing Zoom interviews. My apologies. We are doing Zoom interviews, but you'll be invited by a member of our admissions team to conduct your admissions interview. And we have a lot of deadlines. This was hard to squeeze. Oh, you know what? Let me go back to Rao's question really quick about TOEFL. So anybody who is applying for a part-time program or actually one of our full-time programs, if you have been working in the US or an English-speaking country for more than 2 years, you do not have to take any of our language proficiency tests. You don't have to take TOEFL, you don't have to take IELTS. Similarly, if you attended an international university, but the instruction was done in English, you do not have to take one of those language exams. All right, back to deadlines. So we have a lot of deadlines. There's always a lot going on because we have a lot of different programs going, but the next entry term is for our online MBA for the summer, which is actually May. So don't let the term summer confuse you. It's actually the May entry term. And our next deadline is on January 25th. As you can see for the online MBA, we do have some early decision scholarship incentives. So for example, if you were to apply by January 25th and were admitted, you would automatically qualify for a $2,500 extra scholarship. Our professional MBA, the next entry term is in the fall or August. So our next deadline is coming up on February 8th. MBA Direct also starts again in the fall or August. And so our next deadline isn't until April 28th. But since the deadline's a ways away on that one, I would strongly encourage you to work on getting your application in before April 28th if you are able to. And then Executive MBA. Executive MBA, their first deadline for priority scholarship is March 31st. So in order to be considered for scholarship, you do need to apply by that date. And then we do have regular decision and then our final deadline. All right, any questions? I was just taking a peek at the chat. What is the criteria for top candidates merit-based scholarship? It's a very good question. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on is that we look holistically at everybody's application. So there's no magic formula or magic number, but what we're looking for is above average GPA for scholarship. So a GPA of at least a 3.2 or 3.3, looking for an individual with great work experience. You know, depending on which program you're applying for, that might be a handful of years, that might be 10 or 15 years. So we're really looking also at quality of work experience, what leadership roles you've taken on, both formally and informally at work. We're looking for your motivations. Why do you want to get your MBA? Are you going to be a really active member of our community? Are you passionate about this? So those are some of the things that we look at, both some hard numbers, but a lot of it I would say has to do with the quality of your work experience and what you're going to be bringing to the classroom.
Jill, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
In my situation, I would be applying for the professional MBA, and I see there's different dates there. What do those dates represent? Is that, okay, for the first batch of notices by this date, is that kind of how that works? What do those dates really represent? Yeah,
again, really good question. What we do is for the majority, we do work on more of a rolling process. So we typically are looking at applications on a weekly basis as they're coming in. So in the case of PIMBA, for example, you know, if you applied on February 1st, you know, we'd probably look at your application that week. If you applied on February 8th, we'd look at your application the following week. So there is a slight advantage to applying before a deadline. But for the professional MBA, we are beginning to batch our decisions a little bit more. So we will group together decisions based on everybody who's applied by February 8th, for example. Other programs like the Executive MBA is much more rolling. Again, as you can see, they haven't had a deadline. The Executive MBA program, their first deadline is March 31st. So all decisions right now have been rolling. In terms of the criteria that we're looking for between deadlines, that doesn't change. I would say we're very consistent deadline to deadline. Sometimes candidates ask me about merit-based scholarship. I would say typically for all of our programs, excluding Executive MBA, because they have that scholarship deadline, but for PIMBA, AMBA, and MBA Direct, typically we do have merit-based scholarship available even for our last deadline. Of course, our budget is much bigger because it's been less exhausted the earlier you apply. So I would encourage you to apply earlier rather than later if you are looking for more merit-based scholarship.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I know today we went real fast through a lot of material, but that was the goal of tonight, is to give you a taste of each of the 4 different working professional programs. As you can see from the slide, we have several different events coming up in the next couple weeks that will drill much more specifically into Executive MBA, online MBA and MBA Direct, professional MBA. And then that first week in February, on February 2nd, you can see we're going to be hosting an application tips and FAQs. So as you're starting to work on your application, or if you're not sure how to proceed with part of your application, that's going to be a great session to really dig into there. Although I will tell you, don't wait to ask your question until February 2nd. Lauren, myself, other members of the admissions team, we would feel horrible if you had an admissions question and you held it until February 2nd. So, feel free to reach out to any of us. Here, I'll put up our contact information. Feel free to reach out to any of us at any point in time. We're here to help you. We're here to support you. I saw a question about MBA Direct. So the MBA Direct program is actually 33 months. And so there isn't flexibility in terms of completion of that program. It is by design, it is 33 months. The only program that has some real flexibility to slow down would be the professional MBA. You have the quickest to graduate with professional MBA is 24 months. You can take up to 6 years. And I've only met one person on the 6-year plan, and that's because he transferred to Chicago for 3 years and had to put pause on his professional MBA, and then he came back and finished it. But the majority of our PIMBA students do 24 to 36 months. And I just didn't feel like I got to put enough pictures in the deck tonight, so I made this slide so I could share some more fun pictures of all the awesome things that we do get to do. But love to take any questions with the remaining time that we have tonight. All right. Well,
I have a question. How is the accreditation being considered in outside world if you take one course versus another, like online versus the professional? And is there a difference in the coaching, or both are same? And we have the I guess for the word as self-paced, so kind of recordings and the mentor across. So is there a difference in that and or the accreditation in outside world in these 2 courses?
So do you mean the coaching from the Career Management Center?
Sorry?
Do you mean the coaching from the Career Management Center and the mentorship program?
Yeah.
So that is all the same. Actually, there is one individual, Annie Cadigan Dunlap, who is the director of our Career Management Center across all 4 of our working professional programs. So her and her team, they work consistently across the different programs. So very similar coaching styles, process, and access.
Okay, and how is the accreditation in the outside world for online MBA versus professional MBA? Is there a difference where I should be thinking to take one course versus another?
By accreditation, well, there is no difference in accreditation. All of our programs are accredited by AACSB. All of our programs, we have actually 6 different MBA formats. We have additionally 2 full-time formats. They all result in the same diploma, a Master's of Business Administration. So it's the exact same degree. It's just different paths to get there.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm Hemangini Dhaber. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Or you cannot okay, thank you. It was a great info. So I have a question. Like I'm a postdoctorate fellow, and I'm on I would be starting my H-1B process. So do you have any candidates who have been like international visas, and how do you if yes, then how do you deal with it? Like, can I still apply for like MBA Direct or something while I'm pursuing my postdoctorate?
Yes, absolutely. So we do have several candidates that are working in the US on an H-1B visa. And that doesn't have any bearing whatsoever on your application or your ability to pursue your MBA. So as long as you are authorized here to work and live here in the US or in Dallas, for the professional MBA program, for example, that is completely fine. The one thing to note is that none of our part-time programs offer student visas. But like you said, since you're in the H-1B process, that's not an issue. The one thing I would note too, since you are a postdoc fellow, it's a kind of a unique situation. I would say that, as well as candidates who served in the military and then went and got their undergraduate degree. Those are some unique cases where we might actually, we might look at your application for MBA Direct, and we might find that the online MBA program might be a better fit for you, for example.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, this is Veronica. I had a question. If we're still trying to evaluate which program we're interested in, is there a possibility to sit in on a class or visit a class to see what the program is like in person, or I guess online, depending on how it's being handled today?
Yeah, so there's a couple different options. So one, for the online MBA program and MBA Direct program, that absolutely very easy for us to accommodate in the online classroom to do a class visit. We don't have our class visits started yet because classes don't begin until next week. So our first class visits won't be until the end of January. For the professional MBA, the only unfortunate thing is that we cannot offer on-campus class visits right now due to social distancing. We just simply cannot fit another person in our room and maintain the guidelines for Dallas County. So we are offering virtual class visits for professional MBA if you're interested in that. And then we do offer some limited in-person executive MBA class visits. Again, we're able to accommodate that, and we also do offer them virtually. So it's a little bit different depending on which program you're interested in. I would say the best thing to do would be to email a member of our team and just tell us a little bit more about what you're looking to get from the class visit experience, and then we can work to make sure that you're getting into a class that'll help you see that, and then in the right program fit.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. And another question. Oh, thanks. Lauren just got it about applying. Any references you can give on employers who sponsor or fund the online MBA? There's lots of companies. What I have seen in my experience is that most companies do not preference one format over the other. That their tuition benefits are consistent, whether it's an MBA, a Master's of Engineering, a Certificate of Finance program. So I would say virtually every major corporation within the DFW area Fortune 500 companies all support the online MBA just as equally as they would one of our on-campus programs. If they have tuition benefits, I should add. All right, we're a couple minutes over. I would love to sit here and answer any more questions, so I will do just that. But if you don't have any questions, I should say, please feel free to, carry on with your night. But if you do have more questions, I'm happy to stay on the call for a little bit longer. All right. Well, thank you again for all of you for coming out tonight. It was really great to get to know you. Thank you for all of the questions. It always makes it a lot more fun when we get some really good questions going. So thank you so much. And we look forward to connecting with you. Bye, everybody. Have a great evening.
Bye. Thank you.